Order. Thank you. We're going to have, I assume we'll have all our people show up here, but we'll just wait and see in terms of roll call. But let's start with a moment of silence. Thank you. Open session. Mike.
A little update on microgrids, and that moves it up from the last item on the agenda. This will be short, sweet, to the point. We had our kind of community get together in April and May. I say we, a small group of us, Charles, Rema, myself, and David Kirshner, broke up a very long series of microgrid breakout sessions that there were 16 total sessions lasting an hour. And the ones that I attended were really informative, how microgrids reduce cost, crunching the numbers, how to pay for your grid, what does a microgrid cost. Those were just the ones I covered. Charles covered reliability and why the normal electric grid is no longer good enough. Another one on reliability. Dave Kirshner is getting his notes together on sustainability, green energy, and balancing acts. Rema did, let's see, microgrids that foretell the future, microgrids that change the way we make, deliver, and use energy. All very exciting stuff. They have fed their notes to me, and I am trying to assemble those into a white paper for presentation to LIFAC or anybody else that will listen. And we're trying to figure out what our target audience is going to be on this. Where do we, how do we present this in a format that is useful to islanders, policymakers, people that are looking towards sustainability. And so I thank Charles and David and Rema for your participation in that. We will be thrashing out that format over the next 3 weeks and have a presentation for you. So on one other note, I'm working with a student at Bellingham Technical College, and his final electrical engineering project is a microgrid on Lummi Island. Go figure. And these were independent tracks, and we just kind of got together over the last couple of weeks. So he's doing great things. He's going to come up with a microgrid proposal as his paper, not necessarily one for the community, but I think we're going to learn a lot about how that applies to the local scene. And he's also included the hybrid battery electric regulations. That's all exciting, so stand by for that. That's pretty much where we're at on this. We would love for somebody to come forward and an organization to make this a reality, but we're kind of in that stage of learning and what works and what doesn't and how does that apply to us. So anyway, all fun stuff. So I'll turn it back to our chair, Rema.
Thank you. And thank you for putting that together. I learned a lot, and there will be a place for you on next month's agenda to just give the highlights of that, of the white papers that you put together, or the summary. So thank you for that. Other comments in open session? Okay, I hope everybody had a chance to read another set of incredible minutes. Thank you, Mike. were there any suggestions, comments, additions to that set of minutes?
I move we accept them.
Thank you. A second?
Fine.
Great. Thank you, Jim. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Internal business. I had one thought, and that is that I had a conversation with Jill Nixon at the County Council office, and evidently ours is not the only advisory committee opening out there that's not been filled. The County Council office is going to be part of the agenda of the regular at-large County Council meetings. So next Tuesday, they will start highlighting at the beginning of those meetings, openings that are available for community members to fill. And she's going to highlight LIFAC in her first meeting, or the first presentation. So Todd, hopefully you can give us a rah-rah on that to fill that extra slot.
Which is the slot that's open right now?
Well, actually, we've got 2 off-island slots. One is currently open and the other is Greg Rice, who seems to be having some really significant health problems. And I have one email from him saying he might have to just roll off at this point. So we really would, it'd be a good time to have some off-island representation as we go forward. So.
And
Any other-
especially several applicants, not just 2. We should try for as many as possible so council can choose.
That would be great. Any other internal issues to make people aware of here?
Can I just ask Todd, when this comes up in this format next Tuesday, who will be listening, or how will this will it be reported in the press, or how will it help get the word out to people who are not actually watching the meeting?
Yeah, well, if it's in the meeting, I guess you'd have to be watching the meeting. Not that many people watch, but there's a few, and it's archived and posted on YouTube. But it's more than we've done in the past. So if Jill's going to do something at the beginning and
Great.
try to drum up applications, but yeah, we still need to do some more external promotion of these things. But it's a good idea to, and if we do it every 2 weeks at the beginning of the meeting, I think that to have some effect.
We'll see.
And it wasn't my idea. I give Jill full credit for this.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, no, it is a way of reaching out to people who are concerned about community issues. So we'll see what happens. And also just going forward in terms of internal business, I'm going to suggest, at least in the near term here, we continue to hold our meetings via Zoom, especially as long as Mary Ross is available and willing. I've been so grateful. So thank you for that. And also, I was surprised, actually, several people did give me feedback on our last recording that Bill Fox recorded and posted on Nextdoor. And several people actually watched it and gave me some feedback. So be on your best behavior. Mike.
Just curious what your thinking is behind continuing on Zoom.
I just think it's easier. It's going to be easier to get off-islanders perhaps involved. It's easier for our public works people to join us on a consistent basis. And I do feel pretty strongly that when there's a new advisory committee, that there should be some in-person meetings, simply because you can't really learn how to work together totally remotely. It doesn't have the same chemistry at all. But Mike, do you have a comment to make on that? Do you have a
I
preference?
would just be in favor. There's nothing better than in person.
I would not want to go totally, yeah, Zoom. I agree, but I think for the short term here, unless there's other pushback, my plan is to continue doing Zoom meetings in the near term, and then we can address it in a future meeting, see if we want to change. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Was curious.
I'd like to put in here a little bit. As soon as we could, I'd like to get back to personal meetings
Okay.
because it's really hard to present things here, especially drawings and pictures and other stuff. No, there may be a computer genius that can do it, but it's not me.
Okay, all right. So it's worth discussing more in the future. We'll consider that in the future, but at least for next month, let's plan to do Zoom one more time at least.
Can I make a quick suggestion, Jim? If you do have things that you want to share, if you email them to me, I can preload them up and then do a screen share when you want to talk about things in the Zoom format. So that is possible. If you're not comfortable doing screen shares, I can do that.
I'm very uncomfortable doing screen shares.
But
Well, Mary-
Mary, thank you. Yeah, that's terrific offer.
Yeah.
Okay, old business. You'll notice there's nobody from Public Works this time. I got a call from Rich Hudson this morning that he is unexpectedly laid up. And Roland is on vacation and Liz Cosa was not available. So we're gonna wing it. The Santa Can is evidently up and going over there, and he commented that he was pleased that so far when they checked it out, it's fairly clean. Yay. So far, so good. The next item was the local weather station. And Mike, you have an update on that?
Yeah, just briefly, two things. I met with John Mulhern, ferry captain, who's kind of been I think he's been assigned, to lead that initiative for Public Works and the crew. And we discussed, I'll send around actually a little information. I'm researching what he showed me, a website that has, if you recall, an expensive version of a weather station over which Rich and Liz expressed concern about how it would be paid for. And that's where I stepped in and I said, well, let me take a shot at funding it if we go that direction. So I did two things. One is, you'll love this, I know, because you've heard me in the past, but sponsorship. And I talked to, John found Roach Harbor online on their site, and they have a webcam, on the harbor, and up in the upper right-hand corner is Kenmore Air. And so I made a couple of calls and found out that they, in fact, Kenmore Air sponsors that on a year-round contract. So the next step, and then I want to point out that Elizabeth Kilinowski, I hope I'm saying it correctly, is a citizen on the island. And she sent me information yesterday I haven't had a chance to look at. And it's about a far, far, far less expensive alternative. And I don't know, I think it's apples and oranges, but she said that several islanders have purchased this weather reporting station. And that she had an experience in the past with something at Lake Whatcom years ago, and that it was sufficient and has lasted for decades, etc. So I'm going to research both those, they'll be from this end of the spectrum to this end, and then see if we want to go forward with trying to seek funding for, I'll just call it the expensive alternative or option rather.
Thank you for that. Thank you for stepping in and moving that forward. I appreciate that, because obviously there are some people that do take advantage of that and appreciate it. And the ferry captains would appreciate having very localized weather input there too.
Well, Liz pointed out that the station that's worn out, I guess past its prime or something, was good, but it didn't record data. And so I think when John looked into it, he was looking at alternatives that would, last for a very long time and record all the data, however you want to say, the weather data for the island. It's been basically rainfall over the last 50 years But this magic thing will record everything, lightning, wind, you know, and I've
Okay.
talked to Richie about, you know, we're in this microclimate that, and John said the same thing, it's constantly changing and it impacts the entire area and in fact, the entire United States, but I won't go there.
Great. Thank you.
Can I just, you mentioned a video camera at Roche Harbor. You know, many years ago in LIFAC, we briefly looked at video cameras so that people could see the status of the ferry line, you know, before they left to sort of reduce the time spent waiting. When you talked to the guy, was the video camera a part of such a scheme, or was it strictly weather station, or what?
No, it was what it was irrelevant. I was calling him to see how the sponsorship worked. I
Oh,
wanted
I
to
see.
explore, could we get somebody to sponsor the weather station and help major and with major
Okay.
funding. So it wasn't. We do have, by the way, there are 3 cameras on the island where you can see the ferry line now. 2 of them are on one website and the other one's on ourlummyisland.org.
Oh,
Could you put that in the minutes, how to access them?
Sure.
I think more people would like to have a look at that.
Yeah, it's the most punched up site or a page on the new website, ourlummyisland.org. That's a new that's a Leica project that I've been involved with for several months.
Mhm.
thank you. I could just stick with the agenda here, but Todd, I know your time is short. I was hoping to have your input on 2 items. I might jump ahead just for a minute to take advantage of your presence here now. One is I want to have a conversation about the possibility of putting forth a resolution to go for the technical, ask for the technical aspects of going all electric sooner versus later on the replacement ferry, and to have county council on board with that, going to Public Works and asking them to work on that actively now so that we could take advantage of any possible grant opportunities now that might not be available in the future. That's one item. And then the second item that I'd be interested in your input, if you had any, is any next steps that we, LIFAC, should be taking in terms of public awareness of the overall replacement ferry project. So just wondered if you had any input on either of those 2 items while we had you.
Yeah, this is when you want rolling around, but a couple things. So I guess so you're asking for doing some pre-design work. So we stick with the hybrid, but then we have some design work done for a quicker swap to a potential all electric.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you know, I think the biggest issue is what is that step forward to, you know, recharge whatever batteries or whatever, but to actually have something that is grant application ready. Otherwise, there's a chance we might have to wait decades to.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important to talk with folks in Public Works about. There was legislation. I testified on some bill on behalf of Skagit County to I can't remember what it was exactly, to make it easier for them to do an all electric ferry, and I think part of it was the tech so they can apply for grants. I don't understand this fully, and then be able to change what they get, because the idea is that the technology on the all electric stuff is going to be changing so fast in the next couple of years. And I'll try to look for that. I think it was a county specific bill, but it passed. So there are people they're out there, they're thinking about that. And maybe this is something run by KP. What's the acronym for our contractors here? KPPF.
Yeah.
Because they've maybe done some of that work, because they did the scenarios. Yeah, but yeah, because we're looking for grant ready projects of all sorts of things right now at the county and at WTA. So I think that's a good ask. The second one, I think you said was what can we be doing to get people more
just
aware?
public-
Todd, before you go on to the second one, can I just add to what Rema was saying?
Yeah.
I think what we're getting with the new ferry, as you know, is a diesel battery hybrid. And as
Right.
Jim Dickinson has pointed out, it's actually going to emit more carbon, whether it's in diesel or generating onboard electricity for electrical operation, than the ferry we have now. And so Rema's point is we'd like to be able to move swiftly to ramp up power supply, shore power at Lummi Island. And there's some possibilities for PSE to ramp it up through the existing undersea cable. And maybe with some batteries or tied in with microgrid application. But to keep it simple, what we've been talking about is shore power at Lummi, sufficient for the new vessel to work 24/7 on all electric operation, with its diesel engines just used as backup and safety.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah,
so the study would be that.
Yeah, so that's a different than, so there's two things. There's like, how quickly could we swap out the current design, and are there grants that would help us do that? And then the thing that Charles is talking about, increasing the shore power. So I don't know, those might be potentially different grant programs.
So you're talking about, and say in 2025, a super new technology becomes available, and instead of diesel battery hybrid, we go for whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's been my understanding, is that the plan, and we're telling the public this, is that this design is convertible, right? I mean, it can
Right.
be upgraded.
Right.
So that there's stuff going in that direction. I think,
Okay.
some of it driven by the Gramus ferry, but then the issue that you're talking about, I'm
Mhm.
glad you clarified that. That's a separate thing. So are there grant opportunities for shore power, and
Mhm.
or are is there stuff to incentivize PSE to be beefing up the bandwidth?
Right. Yeah,
Th-
but
those
right
are-
now we don't even know what the possibilities are. We don't really know what the boat is going to require, and whether and so it's sort of a technical study. What are the options to supply the electricity,
Right.
whatever that electricity ends in doing once it gets on board the new vessel?
Yeah, but I think it's both of those are a good ask. It's just trying to figure out, is that Public Works? Who do you work with to? Is it to work with PSE to get that information? So,
Right.
but I think everybody's looking for, I hate the cliche, shovel-ready grant things right now, particularly in transportation and infrastructure. So the Ramus second question on, I think it was like, what should we messaging the public or whatever right now in terms of?
Oh, no, we're going to have a discussion about naming the ferry and public awareness of the replacement ferry and so on. Did you have any input before you left? That was
No.
Okay.
I'm actually looking forward to the conversation about. We're actually getting to the point where we can name this boat. Like, I want it funded and then named.
Well, exactly.
In
Yeah,
that order.
first thing
Right.
first. But no,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry I got to jump off so quick, but I'll have more time next meeting. So
That's great. I appreciate your being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, excuse me, I hate to go out of order, but I didn't want to, I wanted to use our time with him. Mike, you finished up on the weather station. From what I hear, the capital surcharge seems to, that transition and implementation has gone as smoothly as anybody could have hoped. Dry dock, I think.
Very quickly that our proactive messaging had much to do with that. And that's why I want to continue the impetus of proactive messaging on basically everything we do.
I like that term. Okay. That's our new guiding light, proactive messaging. Okay. Thank you for that. I think dry dock planning sounds like, it's going to be a significant dry dock, but my hat is off to Marie Duckworth. It seems like there's been lots of publicity out there for anybody nobody should say, I didn't know. So is what I see. And I had just one other item to share that from my conversation with Rich Hudson, that they have gone ahead and they have hired 4 new on-call deckhands. And I believe the names are Dave Lapoff and Josh Thomason, Kelsey McLean,
Oh,
and Mike Hammis from Ram Construction. So evidently he owns the company over on the other side, Ram Construction, and we've seen their work on the island, and he says he's going to take a day off whenever they need a deckhand. So I love it.
These are great people. This is really a tribute to Rich and the ferry crew and Public Works to recruit such people.
Well, he was touched, I think, because some of them applied because it appears to be such a good crew to work with right now that it's a team that people want to be a part of. So that's huge, I think.
I agree. And these people, the 4 you named right now, will be on standby only,
Yeah,
or
they're on call.
okay,
Yes.
on call. But later, if through the normal process of attrition, they might move up to full-time like in the past.
Even though,
Okay, good. So we've got a deeper bench than we had previously. Very good.
well, and I know he had said, I mean, part of the reason we're having budgeting issues on some other levels is he wants to keep the ferry as full as possible through the summer months and keep it moving as smoothly as possible. So there'll be an extra deckhand part of the time. So
When you say as full as possible, you mean as a revenue generating
Yeah.
objective to
Exactly.
catch up?
yes,
Good,
exactly.
good.
Yeah. So
Can we have it total other vessels too for extra passengers?
well, there's creative thinking. We don't have Roland on board for any updates on the grants, but Rich was not aware of any updates. And I did run by him this whole idea of asking for money to be spent on having the technical background and the overall plan to have something as shovel ready as possible in case there are extra infrastructure dollars available. I think, Jim, you have made the point that the sooner we get to something that's more fuel efficient, the better off we'll all be. And I'm wondering if we want to spend a little time about what part LIFAC can play in terms of moving that direction, or are we in agreement that we want to move that direction? So are there thoughts in terms of trying to find a way to be able to go out and look for funding for be proactive about funding the shore power and the extra support that would be needed to do that last? I think the one estimate we had was about $4 million for the boat to transition, the replacement ferry to transition from hybrid diesel to all electric.
I don't know where that figure came from. It just suddenly appeared, and I don't know whether it's just someone's waving their hands or, but so far as I know, no one has actually costed it out. But do you know? I mean, if there is.
I remember Public Works use that figure in
Right.
our LIFAC meetings in the past. I don't
Right.
know that I've seen it in writing.
Right, that's the point of asking them to cost it out. So then we know what it is we're aiming for.
I think that we need to initially leave the whole electrical system out, because it's going to cost a awful lot of money, and things are improving. And so if we set on something now, what we're going to get in the years will be considerably better. And the other thing that I have been doing some studying is that the Northwest Planning Council, Power Planning Council, with the loss of the coal-fired plants, is predicting a 30% brownout possibility within 2 years in the Pacific Northwest. So we just plain don't have enough shore power. And all these other ideas are great, but they're not here yet. There's also some possibility in talking of the Nikola Tesla technology being released. If that happens, we don't have a problem with electric motors. But we don't know what's going to happen. I see that with the boat, the hull is not efficient. They took the design from Galveston and basically changed it around a little bit. And I don't know that the V hulls, the Modcom Chief is a semi V hull, the Haiyu and the Steel Electrics are V hulls, are considerably more efficient. We have the depth. We don't have to worry about that. We've got 12 feet at low tide on the water, which means you could have a boat that would even go down as far as 10 or so, or 11. And if we went to 8, we could have the big propellers, we could have that, and the V hull, it would work great. So I think that the design got off on a start, on a little bit. I know this much from working with architects for years. They have these ideas and planners, and they want to have somebody build it. And sometimes it doesn't work out so well. I've seen a couple of things that, we got a good example called the courthouse, and we're in the ferry business. Is the KDT ferries to Port Townsend. Considering the old ones, they don't do any better, and they burn like 1.5 times the fuel. And so I think this needs really to be looked at and gone through. I also worry that the diesel engines in it are going to wear out very quickly because they're going to be used really hard that they're proposing, and it needs a bigger set.
And Jim, I appreciate those points. You have made those points before, and more often than not, you are right. But those points you have brought forward, because you are the most technical of us, at least that's my humble personal opinion, in terms of moving the all-electric part of this overall replacement ferry forward. What is your suggestion on doing that beyond the whole design issue? And
my suggestion is to plan for it, but don't put it in. And then later, add it on later, because right now it's going to cost us more money in fuel use and also in just plain buying the stuff. And as time progresses and things get better, it's going to go down. So, put the places in for the batteries, put the places in for all this stuff, and just don't do it. That's my opinion.
Well, and Jim, that's where we are right now. So the discussion is, would we, in terms of getting that final mile funded, would we be better off being more aggressive in our implementation of all electric at this point? And what I'm hearing you say is no, not necessarily that we ought to wait until the technology improves.
Not only that, we ought to wait until the power catches up, because the power is not catching up. It looks like it's diminishing.
Okay.
That's one thing which I'm very, worried about. I will make one other point here, that COVID has thrown a brick in planning, where we could depend on for 30 years of planning that this would happen, that would happen. It's all out the window now. It's totally where you could depend on so much on public transportation, so many people living here and there. It's just been turned upside down. And we've got to be watching that, because if we build for, 20 years ago, we could really miss the mark. And that's one thing that I want to, I want to specify here. And
Can you be more specific on what the planning parameters are that we should be watching?
we should be watching for more use, because
Mhm.
as the public transportation in the bigger cities is diminishing, people don't want to ride it. The sale of private airplanes is going through the roof right now, and being that I'm kind of around that. People don't want to ride the airlines anymore. They're driving their cars coast to coast. They're doing all kinds of things like that because they don't want to get around the possibility of getting some kind of disease. And so it's really putting a kink in everything that we used to think was normal. And that's what I'm worried about. That's why I'd like the ferry to be expandable. Even the Whatcom Chief Hull, which is a pretty good old hull, could be expanded even to a 4-lane, and then later sponsored out to a 5. The one they've got here can't be. And
Okay.
so there's all kinds of different things to look at. And I think we better be careful about this, because we may end up with something that in 10 years is just completely overwhelmed. I'm watching today. I went in yesterday, I went into town and I had to wait 2 hours to get on the ferry.
So Jim, I appreciate your technical expertise. Are there other thoughts on this whole idea of staying where we are or jumping forward, trying to move forward quicker, faster in terms of all electric capability? Mike? I can't hear you. You're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, I forgot I turned it off. Yeah, I have a question, Jim, and it's out of just lack of, I've only been on this a couple, 3 months, but when you say what they have here, who is they and what do you?
I would say the designers of the boat, designers in public work, what they're promoting
Okay.
as a boat. That's what I'm saying they is. It's real hard when you get inertia going. It's real hard to turn it around, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm thinking yesterday when I went to town, I would have liked to have that 34 car ferry, and I think that it would have been running to capacity as it was. And that's today. So we're going to see a lot of growth. I think we're going to see a lot of growth out here. And as much as we don't like it, we're not going to stop it.
Okay, Judy, did you have any comments?
No, not really. I just, I don't know where these hypothetical people are going to live. Certainly lots of summer tourism and Airbnbs and VRBOs, et cetera. But otherwise, there's absolutely no housing on the island. So I don't know how we would see that much increase in population.
I would say that there's 300 available lots. Also say that the county is now relenting and letting 2 ADU units.
There's 300 available lots?
A lot available lots.
Oh, really?
On the market, actively on the market?
Not on the market, but available.
Uh-huh.
And that's been a figure that's been going on for years. And then the county is relenting right now and allowing, instead of 1 auxiliary dwelling unit, they're letting 2. And that means 2 to 4 people in each one of those, and probably not mother-in-law either. We were being approached. My company has a bunch of property in Lummi Mountain. We are being approached by people who want to move on to Lummi Mountain, and I've never seen that before. Never.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
What will they do for water, all these people?
Oh, they don't really know, but they want to move down there. There's lots of water down there. It just has to be captured. It would have to be treated, but there's plenty of water. And you'd have to store it. There's at least 2 systems that are bigger than Scenic Estates down there on the southern end.
I'm sorry, there's 2 what?
2 water systems.
Oh.
That could, they're not developed.
You mean there are locations where they could be built?
Huh?
Their locations, you mean? They don't
Yeah,
actually
right.
exist yet.
I'm not talking about the zoning. I'm not talking about anything else. Even as it was, you could put one house per 20 acres right now on down there. And we're not in favor of that. We want to keep the trees. But it's just, I'm getting phone calls, literally 2 and 3 a week. Will you sell me a piece of property? Well, I want this one, and the popular one seems to be on the south side of Venati Bay.
Well, Jim, thank you for sharing that, because I'm not aware of that, and thank you for sharing that. Other thoughts in terms of next steps and positions LIFAC ought to be taking, be aware of? Charles.
I just want to reiterate that my time on this committee is where we've really contributed is by asking for actual evidence through studies. That was true of the ferry frequency usage study in 2015 and so many other things leading up to the design of our new ferry. So I think that asking county council to be prudent and to plan ahead and to allocate some funds for these 2 look aheads that we talked about with Todd is very much in the tradition of where we make our contributions. Meanwhile, we have a kind of ability to look ahead because we're not responsible for implementing or for finding the actual funding, right? That's what keeps Public Works up at night. So they can't look ahead as well. But we can see that we're going to need at some point more shore power for this vessel if it's going to realize its potential. So that's why I think pushing a little bit more would be a good idea. Not that everyone has to agree. Let's just find out what the facts are.
And Jim, I don't hear you saying no more shore power. You wouldn't agree with wanting more shore power. I don't hear you.
I don't disagree with it. I just don't know where it would come from.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the problem.
Right.
Horror of horrors, we could drill a well out here and hit natural gas because it's all over this place. But a lot of people like that.
Well, having been one of the people.
Write a proposal, Jim.
One of the people sitting in on Mike Skehan's microgrid and Charles's microgrid meeting, I have to say those who had experience with the microgrids, they all started with some sort of a grant funding with that as a springboard to come up with the plan. And it seems to me that the ferry is a worthy project. But do we want to take that on and try to make steps towards more shore power depth possibilities? Even though the technology the actual batteries and so on are maybe not even designed yet. Like I'm hearing everybody say that, including Jim, right?
Exactly.
So is there a place for LIFAC? I know one of Mike's questions is who would help lead that charge? There's part of me that thinks that's beyond LIFAC's mission statement, but it certainly would be prudent and forward-looking to support more shore power know-how, expertise, possibilities, options. And, Todd was saying they're looking for shovel-ready projects. Is the shore power part of that possibly something worth supporting, pushing for, lobbying for by LIFAC? A question. Mike.
Something's changed since I was part of the original LIFAC. What I heard Todd say is that's in Public Works domain. And this group, unless something's changed, works for the council. As we advise the council.
Well,
And I think all these things you're saying have merit in terms of us trying to raise consciousness or advise Todd and the council to push
Well,
on public
no.
works, seek funding, all that.
I'm not
But-
saying that we would do the work. I'm saying though that is that an important objective that we would want Public Works to take on
Well, I thought
and
you
work
said
with
that's
their
what-
merry band of consultants to provide the background information and the options in the future here.
Yeah, and I thought he was amenable to that, and
Oh, yeah, Todd, yeah, that's, I heard that too.
I will say that there is another option of wind power coming out of Australia. Its vertical turbines are very, very efficient. They don't kill birds. They don't make noise. They're smaller on an average. I actually was looking at trying to figure out what one would cost me. So there are some changes going on. In reality, we've got one of the best power sources right out in front of Village Point in the tides. But that's going to take a large amount of money to develop. It's not going to be done by a couple guys and using tractor parts.
I'm sorry, Tide Power, you're saying?
Yes. Oh, it's huge.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good to be aware of. Mike, Mike Skihan, you had a comment?
Well, I just wanted to make one quick comment by our report for LIFAC. We should be able to have a definitive answer from PSC on the capacity.
Uh-oh.
Goes up.
Mike?
Looks like the same thing happened to him. It happened to me about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to Mike. Okay. Are there other comments? All right. What I'm hearing is let's maybe table this until we see what Mike Skihan brings back
I think that'd be very
at
good.
our next meeting. So, okay. Other thoughts on, before we move on to public awareness here at this point? Uh-oh,
Boy. Oof.
poof. Oh, no. Okay, Mary, we have technical difficulties here. Oh, Jim, you pulled the plug somewhere. You were lobbying for in-person meetings. You and Mike both, and look who's left.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm watching the waiting room to see if they come back. They somehow got kicked off. I wonder if internet went down.
Okay, well, thank you for being on the lookout for them. Thank you.
Yep.
About 3 meetings ago, mine did, and it took me about 15 minutes to get back.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm watching them, and I will admit them as soon as they come back knocking on the door.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if nothing else, I want to give a shameless plug to Orcus Online. They've had no glitches lately, and it's really quick, and it's not expensive.
Really? Orcus Online, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
Unfortunately, if you're on the other side of the island, you aren't going to get it.
Oh, we're not? Okay, yeah,
You probably could.
really? Okay. Orcus Online, that's just what I need to Google, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, well, I appreciate this. And Mike, you were the one who blew the whistle on me that I let the last meeting go too long. Am I going to be docked this many minutes until we get a quorum again? Oh, no.
we only control what we can.
There you go.
We can play British music hall music for the fun time in between.
We just Judy too.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
Boy,
Charles.
it
and
just went.
Mike Skihan, yeah.
Wonder what system they're on.
I'm not sure. So, Jim, are you at the yacht club or are you back home?
No, I'm home.
You're home.
I
Okay.
finished up and ran like mad. That's why I was a couple minutes late, because I got off the ferry, got here, hit set up.
Got it.
Took me like an extra 5 minutes.
How's the traffic going by your house now with that sinkhole? Are you seeing a reduction in car traffic around your corner?
I think it's more to a reduction. It's like, I don't hear anything.
Enjoy.
It's really quiet.
Hey, I did talk to some people on a public works truck the other day who were, getting back on the ferry, and then they had road closed signs and everything, and they were, I was saying, oh, are those from the sinkhole? And they went, no, that's going to be a while. So you could have a quiet summer.
Yeah.
I might even see if I can still ride my bike on that stretch of road. We'll see.
Oh, there's lots of people, malefactors going through it. Mostly locals. People like that live right there.
Okay.
I haven't lately, but I did once. It was midnight and I was up at Bill Fox's. So
And what did you ride home?
I was, it was about midnight, Bill Fox and I, and he always eats dinner late, and we'd had a great time up there. I decided I didn't want to drive around there, went that way. So I guess I'm a criminal.
Well, this is distressing here.
From what I'm hearing happened is that they got loose the skunk patch water along a pipe, and that's what caused the.
What happened?
Well, they put a pipe across the road for power or whatever, and I think a water pipe too, and they didn't quite get it plugged off on the skunk patch side. It's got something.
Oh, no internet. That's Judy? Okay.
That's Judy.
Okay.
You could get
Charles, you can try him as well.
Oh, I just love it that you guys lobbying for more in-person meetings kept your internet. This is great. Well, I'm going to say let's give them 6 more minutes. Is there anything else while we have this time? The other things were the public awareness that was next on the schedule, and name the ferry update, but I hate for you to just share it with Jim and myself, and if the others can come back on.
Well, it'll be in the minutes.
Well, that's true, but
No, I'd like to wait too for a little bit.
okay. All right. Well, then we'll just wait a bit here.
I like that British name.
The British what?
Yeah. Bodie McDonald face. Oh, looks like we got some people back.
Hey, Jim,
That's just me.
That's Mary. So Jim, if you were going to name the ferry, what would you name it?
Well, I would make sure that we had one that really was going to work well. Because other than that, it could become not so good. I remember the rim fire.
Yeah. You and Judy both fell off.
Jim, what's
Yeah.
the origin of the Whatcom Chief
No,
as a name?
well, I would like to continue.
They just combined Chief Quine with Whatcom County.
Your cell phone?
That's where it came from.
Chief who?
Chief Quine in Whatcom County, because the old boat was a Chief Quine.
Yeah.
Rima, they can try calling in.
Yeah, there's one that says tap something. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. And we lost Judy too. Maybe she can do the same thing. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, Charles is going to try to join us, and Mike, since you have Judy on your text there, can you tell her to just try to come back in on her cell phone using that tap mobile feature?
Yeah, I think it says join one with one tap mobile.
Mm-hmm.
It was the last thing.
One, how are you saying it? One what? Spell
One tap mobile.
CAP.
One join with one tap TAP mobile.
Oh,
It's an option in the invite.
Yeah. One tap mobile, that's what it's called.
yeah, her internet pogo zone is entirely out. She just said that.
Okay. And she can't call, but if she has cell service, she's texting you.
Yeah, she hadn't responded to that yet, but she just said, well, darn, my internet is down entirely, pogo zone.
Okay, I'm back by phone.
Great,
It's
so
Charles.
it worked.
I'm the 201 area code that you probably see on your screen.
Thank you for that. I'm glad you're back in.
When my screen froze and things went dead, Mike Skian was talking. I don't know, I guess you've moved on from that.
Well, no, not too far because we lost all of you. But I think in general, it'll be good that his presentation is next time. Oh.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm here and ready to participate, so I'll shut up and listen.
Thank you. Thank you for.
In the 70s, when I was part of the Home Built Airplane Club in Bellingham, the president leased out the back room to a consortium of oil companies who were out looking for oil. Found it everywhere from about Linden to
Can't hear anything.
Powder Island.
Who's speaking?
Down there.
Jim.
Jim is speaking.
Yeah, it's way down there, but it's there. And there's natural gas all over this place, all over the San Juans, Lummi Island, Sandy Point, around with these big trucks with kind of plungers on the bottom that look like, a turkey drum, and they hit the ground, and someplace they blew off dynamite, and they found it. It was incredible.
Judy is asking if someone can text her that link. She can't get her LIFAC Gmail on her phone.
Okay.
I have it right here, Raymond, if you want me to.
She said maybe coming back, stand by.
Get my phone.
Okay, I just texted her the one tap mobile number if all else fails, so. Gosh. Okay,
I've gotten my back, but it says, please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon.
I'm letting you in, Charles.
Here we are, okay.
well, that's heartening. Okay, thank you for persevering.
Okay, I'm going
Okay,
to
I'm gonna hang up.
Okay, well, we at least have a quorum and hopefully Judy will be back on here shortly. Yep.
Here she is. No, this is MJ. I'm not sure if that.
Hello.
Is that Michael Jordan?
Hello. Yes. Welcome. Do you live on island?
MJ, you're muted.
I would like to be Michael Jordan, but it's Mary Jane instead.
Mary Jane Van Housen?
Yep,
Okay,
close enough for government work. Yes.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late. I
No, good to see you.
was zoning.
That's okay. We're having some technical difficulties here. We're trying to get Judy Olson back on, but we do have a quorum. I'm thinking at this point, we'll put off any movement on those replacement next steps until we have Roland and everybody here next week. We'll keep that on the agenda, or next month. Let's move ahead to public awareness. And Mike, did you want to start with any sort of update in terms of the meeting that you had with Liz and Roland and Marie, and next steps that you are thinking we ought to consider?
Well, the next step is to meet with Marie and find out how, if we're going to do, I'd rather say when, we have, the first big thing I wrote down to say is that no longer going to call it a contest, because that implies a winner. And we have to make really, really certain that the public understands that the name of the ferry may or may not come out of this fun event. And so I think we'll just call it Name the Ferry Initiative. And there are three things. Judy and I also met by phone yesterday, and she raised points, and I've got the wheels turning on checking all aspects of vulnerability to us to have this initiative, different legalities. And so we're asking, I left word for Marie, Judy, and she didn't respond to my call yet, but we're going to ask her to pursue that, find out. And one thing in particular that caught my eye, she said we could do this really easily online. So if it's a LIFAC initiative, and if we did it on the county website, what are the possible ramifications of that? Vulnerabilities, legalities, and so forth. I just have two things to say about it. One is I wrote out a huge list of ways to get the word out to do entries, online being one of them. And there's 3 or 4 possibilities online, and the more the merrier. And 2 is, like the grocery store on the ferry. And 3, Rayma brought up to me yesterday, which was on my list as well, and that's the Saturday market. So if we had a way, not only for Name the Ferry at the Saturday market, but to have a presence there to hand out the flyers when we get those, and any other information or questions, especially this summer, because we can reach a contingency this summer that we don't get the rest of the year. Property owners who come in. The other second thing I wanted to mention is just emphatically, we've made it clear from the first talk about this at that meeting you referred to, Rayma, is that the name of the ferry will advise or suggest who the decision maker, parentheses S, is or are, and before we ever start anything in terms of inviting the public to submit names, we just have to make sure we're making it clear that it's fun, it's interactive, submit your names, and go from there.
And who's the decision maker, Mike?
Well, we don't know yet. That's what, if we move forward, I'll make some suggestions. I wrote them down. In fact, what I'm suggesting is a panel that would consist of LIFAC, it would consist of Public Works, some component of these elements. LIFAC, Public Works, County Council, and I didn't bring that in here. There was another one, but anyway, that and so we could suggest whatever, but I think Public Works would wind up saying, okay, well, John's going to do it, or Richie's going to do it, or whatever. I think they'll go with what we recommend, which is a nice panel, but there's going to have to at some point be a Harry S. Truman there, buck stops here to pull the trigger on this. So the other thing I looked into is, and Judy and I talked about this, and I concur with her that prizes are not necessary. And I'm not married to that concept, but I did make a list of about 40 sources that I think would donate something to entries, to stimulate interest. People love to compete. It's crossword puzzles or.
I think I'm wondering if just a ferry pass in and of itself is not sufficient. Could we find a sponsor?
Well, yes, and Judy said that too, and that's where I started. I said, could county give a ferry pass? And he said, no, but LIFAC can buy one. But again, that would just take a lot of planning on who can win that kind of prize if the name isn't selected.
Well,
yeah,
we're not. My understanding is that we're not in a rush, but it would generate some interest to start moving the project forward and create more awareness of the project.
It's all part of the big picture PR campaign that we're involved in. But
Right.
What is interesting is that, well, I'm just saying, we just would have to talk through that. If we had a ferry pass to give to somebody, who gets that and how, because they're not going to win anything. So that would take some. Judy and I can handle that. We'll figure that out. But
It could just be
it's a nice idea.
it could be a drawing that if you submit something, then it goes into a box and then there's a drawing for a ferry pass. That could happen.
That's possible.
Right.
I think that's cart ahead of the horse. So right now, do we want to do this? And two, if you do, I've got steps to take with it. And the first one being Marie, and see what she meant by this would be easy to do online. There's nothing easy for me to do online except type.
Well,
so that's where I want to go first. And then if it is easy to do online, there are several other.
well, I think we ought to move forward. My question is, where do we stand on having an informational fact sheet that would go with this naming possibility? That and I say that because it should be out there at this point. I mean,
well, if we're going to do it, I'll move forward on that. I mean, we haven't really, as a group, said let's do this.
Do you have a
county's all for it? So it's just a matter of, do you want to do it? And if you do, I'll take the bull by the horns and pair up with Judy to look into what, that and legalities, all of it. We'll, by next month, we'll come up. I actually started before next month because we're well into the summer.
I know. We want to have something available, by late July and all of August for sure. If we're going to be looking for interest, we want
if we clear it.
We want to approve something at our next LIFAC meeting. So I would say bring us something to approve and bring us start sharing And somebody's got dinging. I don't think it's me at this point.
Sorry, it's me. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well,
But bring us
Some-
something that we can approve and it'd be two pieces, entries and the fact sheet. Those are two separate pieces. Is that how you see the project?
I'm not sure what fact sheet you're talking about. Creating one for the name of the ferry? Or
No,
the one
for the-
that's
for-
already in works?
For the ferry, they would be naming. For people unfamiliar with the project,
Okay.
what is a quick, Marie was working on,
Well, that's already in the motion, but I haven't seen anything back from her.
I haven't either. That's why I think it's a
Can we ask her to come and present her fact sheet or whatever at our next
Supposed to
meeting?
just send it back to us. Everybody had input into it. At the last meeting, there was
okay, but
Oh,
very detailed
okay.
input into
I
it.
didn't see how she took everybody's comments and she was gonna do some
That's what I'm
updates.
saying.
I thought.
That's what I'm saying to Charles. If she gets that back to us, then we know what it looks like and reads like, so.
Right, but
I
you'd
haven't
also,
called into her, so that'll be on the agenda when she calls me back.
Okay,
Mike, you had said several times, as I understand it, that you felt that Roland and Marie were both strongly for this, and that's why I'm saying let's have them. And we haven't had Roland at this meeting and last meeting. Is there a way we can have them come to be sure they're both here at the next meeting? And then I think we can hear what they think is Public Works point of view, and then we can proceed.
Well, I'm hearing two different things. Name the ferry doesn't depend on that. What I was referring to in my email was this debate about whether to have a public meeting.
Okay.
And I'm just saying there's two good reasons to do that. And that's Liz wants it and Roland wants it. That was my comment.
Okay, well, then they can tell
no
us at the
downside.
next meeting why.
yeah. And
I think
so-
public meetings, given the summertime urgency that you
Yeah.
very nicely described, that we have to have, and public meetings may be more challenging to get people to come to, of the people that we'd like to reach. I don't know, or be more time consuming. But if we had a handout that said, look, the new ferry is coming, here's what it's going to look like, here are the characteristics, here's the funding situation, and down the road, we're going to have a Name the Ferry initiative, online or whatever it's going to be. Watch out for the next notice. So it's a two-step. It's one, bring people up to date, and two, naming the ferry.
Charles, I have an update, and Mike, both, that when I was talking briefly with Rich Hudson today, and I brought up the comment that both Roland and Liz, our understanding was Roland and Liz were promoting this idea pretty heavily, that he said, not so much, was his latest understanding of where they stood on it. I think we all know that Roland would like a name for the ferry. I think we've seen that loud and clear. Based on that, I'm not saying no, there wouldn't be a meeting, but based on that information, does it make sense to say, let's approve a fact sheet and the workings of a Name the Ferry entry system at our next meeting? Mike?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to send all of you, I'm going to work on this in the next few days. And I'd like to send you my vision of what you're saying and give you feedback about it. I don't want to take time to do that right now. In big picture, to me, those are two different things completely. Name the Ferry has nothing to do with a public meeting. Name the Ferry is a separate entity that's a lot of fun and getting people involved and raising their consciousness about we're getting a new ferry. It's really very simple.
I agree with you, Mike, and I think the public meeting is in a way a distraction. That's why I'm saying if we do a flyer and then distribute it to all these places, that's one activity which we can do without much trouble or expense. And then the Name the Ferry initiative follows on in due course.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not arguing for a public meeting. I was just
Yeah.
saying, when I read the back and
Right.
forth, what I heard in that meeting that I attended in town was they wanted it and they wanted it soon. So if Richie, that's new input, and I'm with the group on that whenever.
Well, I'm guessing,
Yes, I just want to make sure, I'm not campaigning for a public meeting. I just had the opinion that if they want it, we should do it. But I will say this, one of the things that came up last meeting was there's nothing new to report. So again, I'm going to type out all this to you, but in what we're doing going forward in terms of messaging, it has nothing to do with what's new. It has to do with keeping a constantly keeping it in the public's awareness. And Roland even said something about that. Remember, he gave the anecdote about going into was it crab or something, and came out and the secretary's all exciting. Oh, you're from Lummi Island. They were just talking about you. And that kind of awareness, and especially with our government representatives. But the more public awareness about this, again, I'll use the example of the surcharge. We couldn't have gone any smoother. I think they said they had 2 calls.
Yeah.
And it had a lot to do with raising the consciousness, giving them information, telling them the benefit to the islanders and the why behind it. So
I
No,
think,
I agree with you. And we did that through the tome primarily, as I
but
recall.
I like having a two-sided flyer that recaps where we are, especially based on what Jim is telling us about how many new people there are on the island. I mean, we're immersed in this. Look, there are not a lot of other people. MJ probably knows what's going on here, and Locke knows what's going on, but there's a lot of people not totally immersed in the details, and just a recap of what it is we're going to name. And again, I liked the idea of including highlights of the timeline of the study that's gone into it, so that we're not second guessing what it is, that this is just the next step. And it would be a recap of where we are, a printed recap for people who stop by the Islander, the people who stop by the post office. Even the Beach Store Cafe could have them, in their takeout area, maybe, just for people, like you're saying, create more awareness. Yeah.
A flyer in every pizza.
I like it.
Well, all those things you're saying, yeah, I'm going to add the ones that I haven't thought of myself to that list and come back to you guys with a plan, working with Judy on it, so that we have a plan of action.
And let's, I don't know if we can approve this by email if we need to between now and then. I mean, are there any other
I was trying, that's what I was
comments
saying
to
earlier. I don't think it needs to wait till a meeting.
Well, I still hadn't seen a final version of the fact sheet, that's all. And maybe you have, because you're more.
I have not. No, that's what I
Okay.
said. That's in the
Okay.
works, but
Okay.
not to my knowledge, no one's seen it.
Okay, all right. Well, it'd be great to have something, ready for, and printed. And I think we all want to agree, though, on the name, the ferry details before we go further, because we
Of
have
course.
not nailed that
I
down.
want everyone to agree on it. I just don't think we have to wait a month.
I guess I was on mute. I was trying to speak earlier.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Judy, go.
No, it's my fault. I was on mute. I'm looking at the flyer, and I think it needs work, for one thing. Second thing is, Mike, I think that it would be great if we could schedule a meeting with at least Marie, maybe Roland, in between this meeting and next meeting, to talk about the outline of this and how it might work. A few questions that I have that I think are bigger questions are, if we solicit folks for suggestions for a name, who approves the group of people that chooses the name, and even further, how does that group of people vote or whatever it is? So I think that those are big questions. I don't know if there's any,
Those are huge questions, but that would fall into Public Works' domain.
yeah, I think
We can-
Public
I
Works
said
maybe,
earlier, we can advise them or we can suggest.
right. But
and
I
have
think
some
that,
suggestions, but it's out of our, they'd finally say, okay, well, John Hutchins is gonna pick it, or,
It's true. We don't own the boat.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
care deeply, but we don't own it.
yeah, I mean, that's very important. So my first question, Marie, is where's the flyer? And my second question, Marie, is when can we meet, Judy? Yeah,
well,
that's what I'm gonna ask you, those two
You know,
things.
sooner than later. And another thought that I just had is that if we wanted to try to include in the flyer a tear off section, maybe where there can be an explanation of the and I don't even want to call it a contest, because maybe it isn't going to be a contest, but where people could sort of tear it off and then deposit their suggestion in a box on the ferry or at the island or what have you. So
Add that to the list. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I guess you were offline when I
Yeah.
first, most adamant thing I said was we're not gonna call it a contest anymore.
mhm, right.
It's just it's just name the ferry.
It's suggestions for names, and I think yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah, I like that. All right. And what I'm hearing is we're not clear on what the final steps are, but I think we have a general agreement that we're comfortable with this direction. And Mike and Judy, you're going to shepherd this forward. And if we need to give approvals, I think LIFAC members have been pretty good about weighing in individually online, so that if in the interest of time, we need to move on something, get something printed sooner versus later, we might, and there's agreement via email that we could move something forward. So I'm not hearing any pushback from anywhere at this point, but keep watching your email. Okay, Charles.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think that, we're an advisory committee. They don't have to, we're not a decision-making body.
Right.
On the other hand, I think Public Works would be happy to avoid any controversy, and naming, who knows, could lead to controversy. So if we can devise a simple panel of some kind using, I don't know, ranked choice voting or whatever, and solicit suggestions with with a lottery reward for those who put their ticket in the box with their suggestion. Something along those lines probably would produce the right results.
Okay, Mike and Judy, move us forward on this. Other comments that they need to be aware of before they take this and run? Okay. Who wants to write the tome article due this Friday? I'm not hearing a lot of new information, so it would be pretty vanilla, I think.
Mhm.
Right? Other than, no, I don't hear any new information this month. So,
But taking a page from Mike's book, we need to always remind them who we are and what we're doing.
right.
So probably there should be a few sentences, even if it's repetitious. It reinforces, or it's new information, depending on whether you saw last month's tome.
Repetition is the cornerstone of education.
Mhm.
Ooh, yeah.
Rayma, maybe we could just repost the
I'll
same
quote
time
you.
if anyone notices.
All right.
One thing, there was a comment about how smoothly the surcharge went, and it's too bad that we don't have anybody representing the ferry, because without Rich here, I mean, how do we know if there has been any feedback? I would think that feedback would be funneling through either Public Works or ferry crew or whatever. So I don't know. Have we had any feedback, I guess, is my question.
They
In
told
my
me,
catch-up call with Rich today, he said it was seamless.
yeah, a couple
He's
of
not
weeks
aware of
ago,
it.
we said there was one call. Right, a day or 2 or 3 after it is implemented, May 17th, is that right? He said they have one call.
Okay. I think it went smoothly, so maybe just to thank everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
everyone should be glad how seamless and seamless it was.
okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Unless somebody else wants to volunteer, I'll draft something. Anybody else want to? Here's from MJ. There's no tome in August. So we got to say something this month or forever hold our peace. Do we?
Okay.
Gosh, Mike, it'd be nice to say, oh, we're going to start taking
There-
naming conjecture.
Yeah, but there's so many.
Well, maybe we can just say that we're working on a plan to solicit input for and suggestions for naming the ferry. We're working on a plan. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Okay, you'd be
Yeah,
comfortable.
I think, again, that will make people skittish if you start talking about naming something that isn't funded and doesn't exist.
Yeah, I guess I disagree.
They'll pick up on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got to hear Roland out on that again. I mean, he's
You-
very
well,
very clear about that.
Yeah. Well, let's hear what he has to say, but you heard what Todd Donovan said. He said, first fund it, then name it.
Yeah, well, he did say that. That's true.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe we don't throw that out there until we are more comfortable.
But maybe, Rayma, when you talk to Roland next, just really try to encourage him. I'd be willing to even change the date of our meeting if he can't meet a July LIFAC meeting, because I think we really need his participation as well as the others, but particularly Roland. So
Okay,
we hear exactly what they want.
I would be comfortable with that. Are others comfortable changing our July meeting date?
If we need to. If that's hypothetical that we would need to, correct?
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
just saying, we
I
need to
think-
ensure he comes.
it would be prudent, so let me see what his availability is.
Mhm.
And then we'll check to see if our Zoom host can help us out again. And,
We can call special meetings, right?
oh yeah, we can.
Well, we've raised enough questions for Roland tonight to have a special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll see if we can have a special meeting. And again, the items would be the contest and approving the flyer. Anything else?
The third would be a public meeting. The last time I heard them speak about it, they were adamant about it. You're saying Richie's saying not so much.
That's what I heard this morning. So,
And the fourth would be, what is the status of funding? Because last year, they were all eager for us to contact our elected officials, and this year, not a word. So if they're, I mean, it's fine if they're confident. I don't need more work writing our senators, but I really would like to hear from them on what is the status of funding and when do we expect to hear? And do we LIFAC, is there anything additive we can do that would make a difference for the funding?
okay. Anything else?
I understand that we're going to know by September.
I'm sorry, say that again, Jim.
I understand we're going to know by September.
For which, the build or the crab?
Well, it's the build is now called something else, but that's when it comes through. When it is awarded.
Ah, okay.
I think in the minutes.
I could not hear you, Jim.
somewhere. I don't.
In September, that's when what used to be the build grant got another name. Changed the name on it again. And that's when we're supposed to know sometime, I think, before the middle of the month.
Thank you. Okay. I will let you all know by email what I hear from Roland when he's back. That won't be till next week. I will send you a draft of a very generic LIFAC update for the tome. Anything else? Okay, thank you all for putting up with technical difficulties
Yeah, sorry about that.
and persevering. Judy, thank you. Glad you're back on.
And
uh,
Mary, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
No problem.
absolutely.
And there's Locke. Thanks, Locke.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. And Mary, MJ, thank you.
Rama.
Okay,
Okay, I'll shut the meeting down.
Thank you.